As I continued to learn more about what my Shaper Origin can do, I decided to try my hand at doing some inlay work. I learned a lot. Here, let me share it with you. Perhaps I should have started out on an inlay project with fewer pieces, but I was planning on using this compass design on a dining room table that I'm going to build later, so I decided to test it in this pine. I got the image for free from a clip art site on the web. Then I sent it to Shaper Assist to have them convert it into an SVG file format that Shaper uses. You can also create files with on-tool design or download projects from ShaperHub. As I mentioned, I learned a few things as I went through this project, but in my opinion, here is the most important one. I started out with the idea that I should make the inlay pocket first and then adjust the individual pieces to fit the opening. Turns out I had that exactly backwards. I would have saved a lot of time and frustration if I had learned that first. What worked out much better was to cut all the individual pieces first and then to adjust the compass pocket to fit those pieces. The Shaper's programming makes that easy. And oh, by the way, all of these program files will be available for free at the ShaperHub. There are many nearly identical parts in this project, all cut from approximately 1/8 inch thick stock. I bought these 5-inch wide by 24-inch long lengths of walnut and cherry from rockler.com. Then I built this special jig for some scrap in my shop. It allows me to swap out the cherry and walnut and to use the same workspace to cut multiple pieces. As many of you know, the Shaper Origin knows where it is on the workpiece by scanning this special tape, and then we create a workspace. To get started, I connect to ShaperHub via Wi-Fi on my Shaper Origin and find my files. I'm going to start with a large point file, number 1. I want the grain to run the length of the point, so I rotate the outline 90 degrees. Now I can place the cutting path. And as I need to make several of these, I can copy the file and place them. I just need 4, but I will cut out 6. That's just how I roll. Now I switch to the cut button. The bit is set for a 1/8 inch cutter, which is right. The offset is 0, also correct. I will take 2 passes for each point, so I'll set the depth to 0.120, just shy of 1/8 of an inch. Now I need to set the Z-axis with just 1 button push. The bit touches down to the surface to tell it where 0 is, so then it cuts the appropriate depth that we need. At last, now I'm ready to cut. This is the fun stuff. I generally guide the machine on the cutting path, but the Shaper Origin adjusts the cut as I do. Cut the pointy bits first, while the piece is still mostly attached to the bigger board. Finish the cut along one of the long edges. It's less likely that the piece will break free if you do that. So that's the basic concept of making these parts. As I recommended earlier, cut out all your pieces at once, and I recommend making extra. Just in case you break one or prefer one grain pattern over the other, they are already there. Speaking of grain direction, I chose to cut the arc segments with the grain running across the width rather than along the length of the curve. I tried it both ways, and I think it looks better on the final piece. Now it's time to cut out the compass shape. I'm using pine for the grounding of this. As I mentioned, I'm going to be building a mahogany table later, and I'm going to use the same compass inlay. And so I'm just testing it out right here. As before, we need the domino tape to locate the machine. And I put a coat of shellac onto the pine. That will help as I'm gluing in the inlay pieces later. The squeeze out will be easy to get rid of. Once again, I'm going to need to import my cutting path and to make sure the setup is correct. Then I'm going to get started. The compass recess is one file, and the goal is to excavate the entire area. I start out with an 1/8 inch bit and cut all the edges of the pocket. When I get that done, I switch to a 1/4 inch diameter up spiral bit. It will, of course, remove waste twice as fast as the 1/8 inch diameter bit. but the shaper will keep it from wandering out of the defined pocket. So we've now got all of the individual pieces cut to their exact size. And now I've excavated the compass pocket, and it's cut to the exact size, which means the tolerances are far too tight to have them fit together. But I've got a way to adjust it. Let me show you how. Changing back to a 1/8 inch diameter bit, I adjust the offset to a negative 0.025, so it removes just a tiny bit of material. I cut a discrete section of the compass shape. Here, one of the arc sections. I clean up the edges with a bit of sandpaper and then test the fit. When that fits, I move on to two of the large points to see how they fit. The pieces are fitting actually pretty well. I might need to sand a little bit here and there to get them to fit. I'm arranging them so that their grain patterns are pleasing to me. When I've got that all done, I will glue them in place, let that cure. Then I'll peel the tape off, sand and flush, and apply a finish. It's really just that easy. I really enjoyed my first attempts at doing inlay with the Shaper Origin. I was happy with the outcome. I hope you enjoyed today's video and maybe learned a thing or two. I'm Rob Johnstone from Woodworker's Journal. Thank you for watching.